Hello and welcome to Sol y Luna Inspirations. Today we're going to be doing a video and talking about the Capricorn New Moon coming up this Friday, December 23rd, 2022. It's going to be early in the morning at 2:17 a.m. If you're in Pacific Standard Time, adjust to your location if you're not here. And Martin has coined this wonderfully, giving form to the sacred marriage. So Martin, hi, how are you?
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us again. The last two videos we did got so well. Last time we did a video, we had 439 subscribers, and now we have 456. And the last two videos we did have a tremendous viewership, so we want to thank you. And please subscribe, share, comment, ask questions. The more you engage, that massages the algorithms, and we can use all the support we can get. I'm doing well. I feel we're in the darkest days of the year, huh? Today is a few days, today's the 19th. We're 2 days before the solstice, winter solstice. It feels that these days are short. How are you feeling the days?
They're short and it's dark. The energy feels that, and I think I really miss the sun. The sun came out a couple days ago when I was walking between jobs, and I almost burst out crying. I didn't realize how much I missed the sun. It's a challenge, but it's a good practice too. It's very humbling.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely humbling, huh? And really has you really digging deep for the light within, huh? So that's what this new moon in Capricorn. So on the 23rd, we have a new moon in Capricorn. So that's the sun and the moon in the sign of Capricorn, the goatfish. What an interesting myth, huh? The goatfish. So it's a mountain goat with the tail of a fish. That's Capricorn. And so that's associated, the mountain goat is associated with climbing the heights of human achievement, and the fish tail is being anchored into the depth of emotion. So it's a very emotional, earthy signs that is attributed to giving form. It comes after Sagittarius, and this point between Sagittarius and Capricorn is that's the winter solstice that separates Sagittarius and Capricorn. And so that's a very important point in the evolution. This is a great shift. We have a beautiful video on the solstice and healing the mothers on the video channel. I will put a link at the end of this video for you to go check it out. That's the video that's doing so well right now. And so that point, the winter solstice is a very important shift between the sun ascending or descending towards the south. And then at the winter solstice, it begins its quest back towards the north. So now the days, instead of getting shorter and shorter every day, from the solstice on, the days get longer every day. And so that's one of the most important shifts in the year, in nature. And so Sagittarius is about finding meaning, and Capricorn is about giving form to that meaning. So the sun enters into Capricorn at the solstice, and right few days after the solstice, we have the sun-moon conjunction, the new moon. So the new moon is the sacred marriage, the sacred feminine, the moon, the sacred masculine, the sun. The Capricorn Cancer axis is the mother and the father, so it's family oriented. So here we have the new moon 2 days before Christmas. We have the sun and the moon in Capricorn, giving form to the sacred marriage. So what does that mean psychologically in our own process to giving form to the sacred marriage? How would you feel that in your own process?
When you're sharing that, it reminds me the Capricorn archetype of the goat and the fish. There's this like quality of emotions and water that's so linked with values.
Yes.
And when we're in Sagittarius season, there's this often there's a call to look at your beliefs and your values, and as you change your belief systems, your values subsequently change. And then Capricorn is all about kind of giving manifestation to those values. So that's kind of partly how I see the Capricorn archetype. And so, and then the solstice being this dark time of year, and we go into the darkness. And I think a lot of folklore over the, I don't know, human history that I'm aware of has gone a lot into going into the darkness to find your light, and then bringing that light out to share with others. So
absolutely, absolutely.
Bringing it back out and bringing form to the things that you've come to have to face in the darkness of yourself and in the world.
In alchemical symbolism, in alchemical mythology, the darkness is the mother of the light. So the moon is the mother of the sun. So then right around, this is it's the Christmas new moon. So, this engagement between the sacred masculine, the sacred feminine, and all the myths associated with it. First, of course, we have Christianity, but before that, we had Saturnalia. Saturnalia was a festival to Saturn, and Saturn was Kronos. We're going to be talking about Kronos a little bit later in the video. So Capricorn is ruled by Saturn. And then what makes this moon even more Capricorn is the conjunction of Mercury here. Can you see that? Mercury, little trickster, and Venus. So we have Mercury and Venus, and we have Pluto. So Mercury and Venus have been really close to each other for most of the fall. Now they're coming together, and Mercury is finally moving away from Venus, and now Mercury is going to turn retrograde just on the 30th. And we have a beautiful video on that. That's another video that's doing really well in full detail on the mythology of Mercury and Mercury retrograde. So Mercury will come almost to Pluto, will pass Venus, and then will turn retrograde and then conjoin Venus for the third time. So then we have the trickster, the communicator god, the psychopomp, the guide of souls, and Venus, and we'll talk about Venus a little bit later in this video as well. So that Mercury-Venus conjunction, and then Pluto, Hades, the Lord of Hell. And so right after this new moon, Venus will keep going and will conjunct Pluto. That happens, in the next week or so. And so that's Persephone and Hades and this whole myth of the rebirth of the light, that is involved in this Persephone myth. So then all of these, complexities, are added. And then so for those who don't know about the myth of Persephone, so you had in early Greece, you had what was called the Eleusinian Mysteries. The Eleusinian Mysteries were festivals that were held at the solstices and the equinox that retold the myth of Kore. Kore is Venus, Persephone, and Demeter, the moon, and how Hades, the Lord of Hell, kidnapped Venus, and how nature became dormant as a protest, and how all the gods had to go and intercede, and then Venus, Persephone, the Kore, rose again. Now she became the wife of Hades, and so this solstice was celebrated with that festival of the feminine going into the hallways of hell and coming back reborn. And so this has been, the oldest of, we know in Sumerian philosophy too, we have Ereshkigal and her daughter as well, Inanna and Ereshkigal, which is the same kind of myth, so this Saturnalia, this solstice is symbolized by this myth of Persephone. And so then I think that, this darkness, and having to rescue our light from hell, from the darkness, really constellated heavily, huh?
It's bound to probably be a bit of a heavy week.
I think it's been a little bit a heavy weekend, and Christmas is not an easy time of the year because we're confronted with family, but also it's very productive in that's where all of our motivation and power comes from. Even though the ancestral line is difficult to deal with, this is who we are in our blood, and this is where we get our power from. And so that confrontation of the darkness of the ancestral line is also the power that we have to be all who we are. So we have to learn to accept it and celebrate it, even though it's difficult. That makes sense, huh? So let's see what we got going for you guys today.
Let's take a look at that chart.
So giving form to this sacred marriage. So we talked about the Capricorn, the fifth goat, and 5 planets. Also, those 5 planets are in the 3rd house. So what would that give? How would that flavor this new moon, this sacred marriage?
To me, the 3rd house is connected with our daily duties and tasks. When we communicate and move about our day,
gather information. It's also about short journeys and about studies, basic studies. So it would make, with Mercury, the ruler of the 3rd house, this would be a very good time for study and for looking into the depth of these myths and looking at the sacred marriage, sun and moon, and and this Mercury Venus conjunction. Also, Mercury and Venus were a couple for a little while. Also, Venus was involved with Mars and with Epiphysis or something like that, who was the smiths of the gods. But Venus with Mercury, they had a son called Hermaphrodite, which was, ambivalent in his sexuality. And so Mercury Venus is a complex. And so this dance between, the guide of soul and the core, has been, kind of flavoring our times. And then with Pluto there, Pluto, of course, has been in Capricorn since 2008 and is highly responsible for the crumbling of the Capricornian structures. And so then, even though we're trying to give form to things, we're also experiencing the crumbling of those forms, which makes it really difficult because we're so thirsty for form, and yet all our forms are crumbling, Pluto, which makes the challenge that much more important.
I see writing as a really good practice when I see that new moon, Mercury, and then the hard challenges that can come with Pluto, all of that in the 3rd house. Writing could be a really good way to utilize what's coming up for you for productive form, Capricorn, but also to integrate whatever's coming up in a balanced, hopefully productive way.
And also with Mercury turning retrograde on the 30th,
right,
then Mercury will come back and will make a conjunction again with the sun, and will pass the moon, and will pass Venus. So to describe, sometimes I call Mercury, having a writing practice is to be a scribe for the archetypes, you know, and in that we have Ganesha in Hindu mythology, right? Who's the scribe
Right.
of you know, of Vedavyas, and so Mercury is the scribe in that way. So be a witness to your own process through a writing practice. It's really important. Now, this Sun-Moon conjunction is in square to Jupiter, Neptune, and that's the only angles that it makes to any other planet. And so that's interesting. To me, you know, the Jupiter-Neptune conjunction that we've been seeing throughout 2022 is finally over. You know, Jupiter went into Aries and then came back into Pisces. Now it's leaving for good. Just a couple of, you know, just at the solstice, Jupiter is leaving Pisces. But that Jupiter Pisces, you know, it sounds really beautiful in a sense. How Jupiter is the great teacher, Neptune is the great mystic, in Pisces, transcendent. But it's a lot to transcend the material world. It's a lot asking, you know, because we're such creatures of the material world. Jupiter, Neptune, and Pisces, and square to a Capricorn new moon. It's not that easy to give form to things in the material world and then to see them dissolve. And like we talked about the rest of the planets in Capricorn and things crumbling, and, you know, because of Pluto's influence in Capricorn. So that would, to me, would really show a deep longing for solid structures where we can feel secure and safe, and yet the need to surrender to the fact that it's not really like that, is it?
No.
It's not really that secure of a time, huh? And yet, you know, and so I think that that's the great privilege of those of us who have strong families, and meeting for family at Christmas can give us a sense of security that can also exacerbate the fact that we don't have that security. I was thinking about this. I'm going to be alone for Christmas, and how difficult it is to be alone at Christmas, you know, and how the reality of a lot of people being alone at Christmas. And so I think that all of that, you know, the need for Neptunian redemption and the finding the divine father, Jupiter, with that sun moon conjunction. Does that resonate with you?
Definitely. And I think it does for many, from what I've been hearing people share in their stories with me.
And then the last thing is the last Saturn Uranus square. Saturn Uranus square, and we've been talking about this for the last 2 years. And you want to go off? Yeah. So I've been studying this beautiful book. It's Howard Sasportas, The Gods of Change, Pain, Crisis, and the Transits of Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. Great little book. Howard Sasportas was the partner of Liz Green in starting the Center for Psychological Astrology in London, a center where you can still to this day get a degree in astrology and psychological astrology. And it's based on the work of Liz Green and Howard Sasportas. And Howard Sasportas left us early in the 90s, but left us a legacy of amazing teachings. And so we've talked a lot about the Saturn Uranus square and the meaning of it. And so we're going to go through a bit of the story here. But first I'll start telling the story. You know, we talk about Ouranos, you know, and so what is the myth of Uranus? Ouranos was the sky god, and his wife is Gaia. So this is a very, very old myth, the matriarchal myth of Mother Earth and the Sky Father. You know, we see this myth still in the indigenous cultures and in pagan religion, basically, that Mother Earth and Father Sky. Well, that, you know, they were given the name Gaia, Mother Earth, and Ouranos, Father Sky. And so in that myth, you know, this is a very ancient myth, very little information resides, and yet so much of it. They had a complicated relationship in that Father Sky and Mother Earth would meet every night together. When the sun sets, you know, they would come together and they would have children, but Uranus was very ambivalent towards his children and kind of forced them back into the earth. And Mother Earth didn't like that. So then one of her sons, Kronos, Saturn, was given a sickle to castrate his father. And so then Saturn at that point became the father god, overthrew his father, but he also had a bad habit that he didn't like competition. So he ate his children. So Uranus forced his children back into the mother, and Saturn ate his children. So they are complex, you know, patriarchal god, you know, in relation to Gaia, the mother of them, but also the wife of them. So, you know, so then we're back to alchemy and how the moon is the wife of the sun, but she's also his mother. You know, so then we have the what is the word that I'm looking for? The incestuous marriage. You know, so that's the realm of the gods. Incestual marriage means they're made of the same thing, and really, in essence, they're part of the same unity. So they're, you know, mother, son, father, daughter. You know, it's very, you know, it's all part of the same essence. You know, God is both masculine and feminine. It is combines two polarities, the masculine and the feminine. So then in that early myth, we had this ambivalence, and then we had the castration of Uranus by Saturn. Now, we did this in a video a little bit earlier about the Saturn Uranus in our times. Actually, I have quite a few videos on our channel, but I wrote down the quotes that I was going to talk about and give you kind of an idea of. Go ahead. So, with the preliminary that I just shared with you, Dayana is going to read, and then we'll expand upon it.
All right. So Uranus Crisis from the Gods of Change by Howard
Sasportas.
As Kronos castrated Ouranos, so astrologically does Saturn cut off the creative impulse and potency of Uranus. This image encapsulates the basic war that exists in all our psyches, a Saturnian urge for maintenance and preservation. Conflicts with our Uranian urge for disruption, variety, and change. One part of us prefers to keep things as they are, the principle of homeostasis, while another part of us wants new growth and development. Saturn builds, conserves, and honors what is known and tried. Uranus, in the name of progress, wants to tear down and make room for something new.
So that's really explains the crisis that we're going through, really, you know. And again, you know, we've been going through a square of Saturn and Uranus, for the last 2 years, and these are cyclical events, where they're coming back again. We're going to have a conjunction of Saturn and Uranus in 2032, and then we're going to have another trine coming in the late 20s, sextile. And so and then before that we had this, the Saturn Uranus opposition, and so this continues. This is an ongoing cycle. And so the confrontation of our need to improve and evolve and bring light and enlightenment and change to the world, Ouranos, the god of light, and Saturn, the principle of homeostasis, of preserving what it is that we have, conservative power, preserving, maintaining, all the Capricorn values in square to the Uranus values. So Uranus is in Taurus, and it's been in square to Saturn and Aquarius. And before that, we had the Uranus-Pluto square, and we had the Saturn. So all of these things are part of an evolving cycle that are part of human nature.
Shall I continue?
Mm-hmm.
So the Saturn-Uranus dilemma. Saturn castrates Uranus every time forces of resistance, sometimes external and sometimes internal, and sometimes both, inhibit our taking some new action or direction. We could block Uranus for a whole range of reasons. It might be a sense of duty, commitment, and responsibility, which keeps Uranus at bay, or it could be a basic need for security coupled with the fear of unknown, which overrules any destructive inclination.
That's the thing about Uranus, is the need for change. It brings unknown, and Saturn is the known, and so we have this great tension in our time that we want to preserve what it is that we have, but we know we have to evolve, but evolve means letting go of what we have. And so it's like really difficult.
Paying homage to Saturn, we stop and stay put, but the Uranian need for change is still there, hiding underground. If we block or repress the changes called for by Uranus, the Furies are born inside of us. Outwardly, we keep the lid on things, but inside we boil with resentment towards those we feel are holding us back.
So the myth goes like this. So Saturn castrated Uranus, and the blood from the cut fell on the ground, and that gave birth to the Furies. The Furies represent our anger and our seething rage and our at injustice, and at when Uranus is frustrated, or Saturn frustrated, we experience, just like those of us who stood on the side of Ouranos in this conflict of change, we face the Furies. And that's what the Howard Sasportas explains. So I'll let you read.
We seethe with envy towards those who are free to progress while we remain stuck. Uranus demands that we take some action, but in not allowing this to happen, the energy which would have been used to make changes in our lives now has nowhere to go. It turns back on itself, attacking the body in the guise of illness, or dangerously festering in the psyche until it erupts, sometimes in the form of nervous breakdown, or so much of your energy is used to keep your Uranus down that we have very little left over with which to live our life. I wonder why we end up so tired, apathetic, and depressed.
So when Uuranos, when the need for evolution is repressed in our process, so when Uuranos is not lived, and Uranus is a very difficult planet to live, because that means we're tearing down the status quo. There are those of us who are like that, and there are those of us who that very concept scares tremendously. I'm born with the moon Uranus conjunction. I had I had a rebellious Uranian mother, and I've always experienced Uranus through the feminine. So that Uranian, is an archetype I've learned to integrate, and Uranus in Taurus has been square to my moon Uranus conjunction all through the last couple of years. So naturally, my rebellious nature against the status quo was triggered. And so, but if we repress that Uranian need to evolve, then, for those of us who haven't integrated Uranus, then that becomes manifest as illness or psychological breakdown, or loss of energy, because we spend so much time repressing our need for evolution. And so that's a really difficult thing, and especially in this crisis, in the Saturn Uranus time. Saturn was very, very strong in Aquarius, dominated Uranus, and so then our Uranian need was repressed, and because it was repressed, then we get a lot of the psychic illnesses that we're going through, and I felt that was really important information.
Definitely. It reminds me too of Uranus, the light bringer, so like also the information bringer. It's a huge piece of why I think people look out for astrology videos or go to astrologers. They're looking for a piece to settle what they know they need to change somewhere in them, whether they know what needs to change or not. There's usually something that triggers you that's like, I need better understanding of what I'm feeling or going through, and Uranus brings about that higher understanding, but it's not easy to integrate. Not for many, at least.
And next Howard talks about what happens if we repress Saturn.
Yeah, that's another important piece of the puzzle. So if in true Uranian spirit we challenge the status quo or establish order of things, we may find that the Furies are hurried at us by those who, threatened by our rebellious actions, like you said, we have taken the step and carried out our Uranian urges, so its energy is not left to fester within us. The Furies are not born inside us, but instead come at us from the outside. This part of the myth suggests that Venus, the principle of love, beauty, harmony, diplomacy, and balance, can be born from the tension between Saturnian forces of homeostasis and Uranian forces of disruption and change. The birth of Venus indicates the possibility of presenting new ideas and alternatives in the way that is tactful and diplomatic, and will not be so threatening to the existing order of things. So then the last part of the myth then is that when Saturn castrated Ouranos, the blood gave birth to the Furies, and then the severed member fell in the ocean, and Venus was born from that. So then Venus at that point becomes the culture bringer that makes it possible to balance the Saturnian and the Uranian. Our need to evolve, and then our need for structure is balanced by the culture bringing effect of the muse and the creative goddess, the goddess of beauty and relationship. She helps us manage the two. And so then when we follow Venus in astrology, in the transits of Venus, but also Venus in our chart, Venus helps us balance that need between the two. And that's really, I felt really important to, how you're doing with your Venus, how you're doing with your creativity
and Venus as the culture bringer, you know, the creativity, the sense of beauty and harmony, and the sense of justice, and the sense of fairness, you know, that are qualities of Venus both in Libra and in Taurus. And interesting, huh? Because Uranus is in the sign of Taurus, which is ruled by Venus. So then our creativity becomes the expression of the Uranian need to bring light to humanity, and it becomes more palatable because we're giving form, Saturn, to creativity. So then Saturn and Uranus. So I thought that little piece there was really important as the Saturn-Uranus square move away from each other now. What we're going to see in the coming year. I'm preparing a video, and I haven't shown you this yet, but I have preparing a video for 2023, awesome. A study of predictions and for 2023, and a study of the charts. But what we're going to see in 2023, and we talked about that in the video for the solstice, is that Saturn is moving rapidly out of Aquarius and is coming into Pisces at the beginning of March. And now, see, Saturn's been ruling rules Aquarius and Capricorn, so Saturn's been very powerful for the last 5 years. And now when it enters into Pisces, my sense is that Uranus will be feeling a lot freer to express itself. And so you know, and then you know, Saturn and Pisces, a whole different animal. You have Saturn and Pisces, you know.
Yeah.
So that's Saturn return for your generation. So we're going to talk lots about it over the winter. We'll do some videos on that. So let's look at the important dates. What did you think about all of this download? And if you have any question, that was a lot of information, but I felt that it really kind of explained a lot of my own process. And again, with that Capricorn New Moon and that Mercury Venus Pluto, and then it kind of put into perspective that Saturn Uranus square.
I think it was great. I also feel like winter is a really wonderful reminder of storytelling and the power of stories. So I think that getting to tell a story that illuminates what the energies are so much right now is a great tool.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So important dates. So the 21st is the winter solstice.
Not long after, we're going to see Jupiter go into Aries again. So it's been over this point before, but it's going to happen again, this time not to return for quite a while. Well,
Jupiter will fly right out of Aries. It'll be from December 21st till the beginning of May, and in beginning of May enters into Taurus, and that's going to be a very important shift of energy as Jupiter works towards a conjunction with Uranus. Towards the end of the year, we're going to have Jupiter conjunct Uranus, which will be
definitely give Uranus the upper hand, eh?
Well, that's going to change the flavor of our times for sure.
Yeah. Then what this video has mainly been about. So December 23rd, Capricorn New Moon's going to happen on the Friday.
Then December 29th, Mercury turns retrograde at 24 degrees Capricorn. We have a whole video on that. I'll put a link at the end of the video. Go check that out.
And then on the 30th, right before the new year, we have Mercury and Venus conjuncting at 24 degrees Capricorn. So this is the third conjunction since there has been a retrograde. So we have September 27th, they had a conjunction. November 22nd, they had a conjunction. And this is the third and final conjunction for quite a little while, many months. Look at your chart, see if 24 degrees is activated anywhere in your chart in Capricorn or any of the cardinal signs.
On January 6th, we have the Cancer New Moon. So that's the Cancer full moon, isn't it?
Oh yeah, that
Cancer
is the full moon.
Typo. Sorry about that. So it's Cancer Capricorn, Cancer full moon at 16 degrees. That's going to be the first full moon of 2023. We'll have a video for you at the beginning of the month. Go ahead.
And then on January 7th, the next day, we're going to see Sun and Mercury have another conjunction at 16 degrees. And then on the 11th, Mars will go direct on January 11th at 8 degrees of Gemini.
Yeah, so go ahead.
When Mercury and the Sun make that conjunction, Mercury is going to be retrograde at that point.
Yes, the Sun-Mercury conjunction, this is the superior or the inferior Sun-Mercury conjunction. When that happens, that's the key part of Mercury retrograde. This is kind of the breaking point, you know, of the cycle where the insight really comes. So that's a really important date in the Mercury retrograde cycle. And then again in that video we break it down really in details. And then Mars turning direct, that's on January 11th, you know, so that's going to release also a lot of power. So should be an interesting beginning to 2023 for sure. You have some some information for us on how to support Capricorn New Moon.
Yeah, so Capricorn in the body, so it's traditionally rules the knees, also the bone structure and the skin, the connective aspects of our body. And in tissue salts, it is calcium phosphate, or traditionally called Calcera phosphorica, now usually called CalPhos for short. This is tissue salt number 2. And the combination of calcium phosphate in this dilution is really important for helping strengthen the bones. It's found in the body, in the blood plasma, the saliva, in our digestive juices, in that connective tissue again, in our teeth. So it's really good for all these aspects of our body, helping with digestion, but also strengthening the structure of ourselves. And if you're low in it, can look like symptoms of having bone issues, so osteoporosis and different osteo issues. Also can look like growing pains, fractures, dental health issues. Really important mineral. It's that Capricorn strength, sturdy Saturnian law in a tissue salt that you can actually enjoy in your body and help ground this into your body. Herbs that have this or can also do this for the body are horsetail, slippery elm, and comfrey. Again, these are bone and connective tissue strengthening elements that you can find in nature and help to connect your body to. Yeah.
Thank you for that, Dayana. That was really fun. How did you enjoy this video?
Loved it. Yeah.
We went deep. We're trying. What's that?
A lot of medicine. Lots to. I'm excited to sit with.
And interesting time that we're all going through. Sorry to interrupt you. Thank you for joining us for this, and I hope you enjoyed it. And if you have any questions to send our way, please drop us a little comment, and then we'll be happy to include you in our next video. Thanks for pressing the like button, and also for subscribing to the channel. And we'll see you next time. Dayana, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much, Martin. I guess I'm also going to take the opportunity to say thanks for joining us on this ride. This is marks a year of Martin and I doing this together. And solstice is here and the holidays are here. And I hope that you take that time for yourself to connect to what strengthens you, whether that is family or whether that's being in nature or your writing or your creative practice. Wishing you well in these dark days.
Thank you for joining us. We have our solstice tree, and we are thank you for coming and joining us in our home, in my home, and it's a pleasure being able to share this process with all of you. Feels like family, even though we well, a lot of you have been making effort to send some beautiful comments our way in appreciation for our work. So thank you for doing that, and we'll see you next time.
See you soon.
Whoop, whoop.
Bye.